Hello, Carla Hartley here. Today I am continuing our discussion on exit strategies. Today's discussion I'm going to kind of focus on arranging your finances prior to seeking a dissolution of marriage in order to permit you to be in a good position come what may. This tends to be a very broad topic, and I'm not going to get into tiny, minute, detailed specifics because then I would be talking for hours. However, let's get started. I'm going to start with the information that in the summons, which is served along with the petition in any family law proceeding, there are a variety of standard family law restraining orders. That's what they're called on the summons. What we call them as attorneys practicing in the family law area is ATROs, automatic temporary restraining orders, because these are restraining orders. The ATROs in a parentage proceeding where we don't have anybody buried are far less restrictive. So I'm going to focus with the ATROs that we have to talk about when we're dealing with a dissolution of marriage. So, one of the big items that you have to deal with once you are filing a petition for divorce is the knowledge that you can't start moving money around just because you're filing a petition for divorce. The automatic temporary restraining orders that have gone into effect are going to prohibit you from undertaking a number of actions. First, if there are minor children in the case, or that are subject to the case, you're not going to be able to take them out of the state without the consent of the other party or a court order. If you do, then you are going to be in a situation where you have violated a temporary restraining order imposed by the court. Now, I'm talking about this, and it's called a restraining order. It's not a restraining order saying you can't go near the other party. These are specific orders enjoining your behavior, setting forth certain behavior from which you are prohibited in participating once you sign that petition or once you are served with the petition and the summons. So, the finances are what I promised to talk about. Okay, first let's talk about insurance. Once you have signed the petition for dissolution, you cannot make any modifications to your insurance policies. Home insurance, life insurance, health insurance, anything. So if you're carrying a significant burden in terms of insurance, this is something you want to start looking at in advance of the dissolution proceeding. Let's look at this from both perspectives. From the spouse who is not the, usually if both parties are working, they're covered under one party's insurance because it's more cost effective. So say that you're both working and you're wanting to move towards a dissolution of marriage. You might want to encourage the other spouse to get his or her own insurance. You might want to look at this and get your own insurance if you're the party that wants to be moving towards dissolution. The reason for this is you can't change it once the case starts, and you want some control over your own life and your own finances. And this is going to be included in any support order that you enter into. So the cost, if you are the supported spouse, showing that you're paying for your own insurance reduces your income and gets you a higher support order. If you're the supporting spouse, then this reduces your obligation to provide support for the other side, but it takes that financial burden off of you. It's going to marginally raise your support obligation. It's beneficial to both sides. I think it works in terms of self-esteem for the party who has not been providing his or her own insurance. But this is something not to just listen to me and say, oh yeah, that's what I'm going to do. This is something where you go and you talk to an attorney, because you need to know what your local courthouse feels about this stuff. If they're strictly, well, did it before date of separation, did it before the petition was filed, we're all good here, then that's how some judges see this. Other ones are like, that was done in preparation for dissolution. It was done 3 days before they filed. you have to reinstate insurance. So you need to look at this. You need to look at this with an attorney who is regularly practicing in the family law court in your specific jurisdiction, who is going to know the likely attitude of your judges. And even if the judge says, well, you did it 2 days before, nothing I can do here, that judge is going to remember this. The early stages of any case are a scramble for the moral high ground. You want to package your client so that that client looks like they're the good guy or the good girl in your case. This is part of it. Make sure you're doing the right thing. Make sure you're working with an attorney in your area. So what's the next temporary restraining order we can discuss that deals with financials? You can't transfer money around. All right, so you've got $100,000 sitting in the joint bank account. Well, you know what? If you're going to take money out of the joint bank account, take half, leave the other half, and do it before you file your divorce action. Do it before you are served with the petition and the summons, because you just don't want to have to the other side go back in and say, hey, they are denying me my access to funds. And I have done this a lot of times. I've gotten orders freezing the funds in the individual banks where they've been moved. I've gotten orders returning the funds. I've gotten orders placing the funds with me to be held in a blocked trust account that cannot be disturbed unless the court makes further orders. So there are ways to correct this. And again, remember what I'm talking about, the early packaging of the client. You do not want to be the guy or the girl that has played dirty tricks and tried to create an unjust financial advantage for yourself in one of these proceedings. So on the other hand, you don't want to be a patsy either. So you got to talk to an attorney. All of these things. Don't look at this and just say, okay, I know what to do now. What I want to be really clear with you is you've got to talk to counsel and come up with a plan. That's why this exit strategy series is important. Even if you're only planning a week in advance, you just decided, I can't stand it anymore, I got to go now. For goodness sake, talk to counsel before you go, before you pull that trigger. The other one, I've talked about insurance. I talked mostly about health insurance, but I want to talk about transfers of property as well. Okay, you cannot, after that petition is filed, or after you have signed your petition, or you have been served with the petition and the summons, you cannot transfer property. That includes real property. You may not take a real property parcel and put it in someone else's name. You may not take money from your bank account and put it into your mother, brother, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle, whoever's name. You can't do that. I had one case where an opposing party was diverting, this was years ago, diverting the credit card receipts for their business into an account in Texas. And this was found, into someone else's name, mind you. This was found to be a violation of the automatic temporary restraining orders, and we got a big attorney fee award, and more to the point, we got control of the business. So there are other items. You can make a new trust. You can make a new will. You probably should make a new trust and a new will when you commence a dissolution proceeding. But those are things that the ATROs don't prohibit. It's the non-probate transfer that you are prohibited from engaging in. So I think that's about what I want to say about the ATROs in terms of the financial aspect. I know I threw in a little bit of the kid thing here, but you need to know these things before you file, and you need to know and talk to an experienced family law professional who regularly practices in the courthouse where you're going to be appearing before you take any of these steps. There are steps that you can take to protect yourself that the court will not frown upon, but you need to know what they are. And that is not something that I can give you on a courtroom by courtroom basis, on a fact by fact basis. These laws are very general. They're very sweeping. Their application is very specific to the circumstances of every case. And I don't have time to give you an example of everything that we see that these apply to. There are a couple of other ATROs that I haven't discussed. They're really not something I'm going to worry about in the context of this video. I was talking primarily about financials and how this can impact you, how advanced planning is a good thing. So if you are contemplating seeking a dissolution of marriage or a dissolution of your domestic partnership, do by all means contact a local attorney and talk about all of the ATROs, not just the ones I've highlighted here. I hope this is helpful. Thank you.